Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Too Many Tomatoes in the D&D subreddit. The post is titled, "I'm pretty sure my wife's DM hates me. For the last 4 years, my wife has been playing with a group that very quickly became close friends. Every Wednesday and Saturday night, she would go on about epic tales and stories that she and her group would get into. Seeing her eyes light up as she talked about her tiefling artificer and his growth and development made my heart swell. She had been wanting to find a group that matched her energy and encouraged creativity, and she told me she found it with them. I couldn't be happier for her. With permission from the game master and players, I've sat in on some of their sessions on Discord, just listening and watching, and found that everyone's energy was so infectious. They bounced ideas off each other, the game master allowed creativity and out-of-the-box thinking, and even rewarded everyone for roleplay and solving issues without resorting to violence. I was laughing with them and even felt my heartstrings tugged at emotional moments. I have to say, the game master was incredibly talented at storytelling and allowing everyone to be the character they wanted. Well, about 6 months ago, they ended their 4-year-long campaign and said goodbye to their beloved group. The game master mentioned she was going to start a new season set in the same world, with a new adventure 100 years prior to the events that kicked things off. She messaged me asking if I would like to be a player, and I enthusiastically replied with a "hell yeah." I've been playing solo tabletop role-playing games for a while because, like my wife, I've had bad groups in the past, and this seemed like the best opportunity for us both to play together with perhaps one of the best groups we've ever had. Over the last 5 months, the Game Master has been contacting me and other players, both in the public Discord and privately, about our characters and the world. I asked her for anything and everything she had on the world setting so that I could create a character that would fit perfectly within it. I was given lore, and any questions I had, she promptly answered. I asked her what kind of limitations or requests she had, and she said, as long as you play a good aligned character, we're good. Apparently, she had some issues where people played evil or even neutral characters, and it caused problems. She wants to tell stories of the hero's journey and not worry about every villager being killed for having a bad attitude or being looted of precious heirlooms. When I believed I had a good idea of what to expect, I created my character. We shared our character concepts, personalities, a bit of our backstories, classes, that sort of thing. There were so many unique traits that we all had, and it looked like it would be diverse and amazing. The game master wanted us to have a few secrets in our backstories that we wouldn't share with the other members of the group, making for character surprises in game. She did this in her last campaign, and they loved it, as it gave them moments to discover things about each other and led to some crazy roleplay scenes. My secret was that my character was abused and tortured by the gods of this world, as punishment for her bloodline from centuries ago. She was a tiefling runeblade warrior from an Asian-inspired home where she prayed to her ancestors to guide her. They were very spiritual and believed they could fight their inner curse by being better than their progenitor. Unfortunately, most of her family had been wiped out by the gods, leaving her and her siblings alive but scattered. Her goal is to find them and confront the gods who had done this. The idea was fun, and we hashed out a lot of little details that would make it interesting within the story being told. I was all for it and for the drama it would bring. We all have tie-ins to other characters, so I was thrilled to get playing. We had our session 0 in which the characters had already started out knowing each other from attending the same academy. We took on a group mission and it kickstarted our main story. It was a blast and the roleplay was very good. And that's about where the fun ended for me. From that point on, everything became about disparaging my character. We would go into other towns because that is where the story would take us, but every town apparently did not like tieflings. Every single town. We went to a place with humans and immediately they refused to work with the group because they didn't associate with cursed blood. We went to the city of elves where the bulk of the story took place, and I had to sit out for 95% of it. The elves scoffed at her, but they were willing to work with the rest of the group. Not a single non-player character would address my character, and my character wasn't allowed in any elven sacred places or inside their city, so she had to remain outside in the camp and fend for herself while the rest of the party was welcomed. I brought up the issues I had. I told the game master that while I fully understand there might be people who are untrusting of her, maybe there could be a way that someone might take some consideration to the fact that she's not a bad person. She gave it some thought and said that sounded reasonable. The next session, a player found a potion that could change one's appearance and snuck out to give it to my character. My character then had a moment of shame for being who she was and realizing the only way she'd be accepted was if she changed who she was entirely. It brought her more strength to prove that she was good, to prove to the world and the gods that she was worthy of being seen as a person and not some monster. There was a scene where she drank the potion and looked human, and then it went back to the rest of the group. The group had a moment in which they were involved with the elven children that lasted most of the entire session. It was fun as they got to engage with them and learn about some special alchemical potions, each of them being granted a bonus and buff for the remainder of their time there. When it finally came to my turn, my scene was of me getting into the elven city and finding one of the children who was part of the group and wanted to learn sword fighting. Since I was a rune blade, I felt I could help them and have a fun one-on-one moment like the group had. No, as soon as she said she was going to help, the game master said, okay, you do that and have a fun sparring session, and then immediately went back to the group before ending the session. In a 6-hour session, I played for 15 minutes at most. I messaged the game master again, being as polite as I could about the frustrations. My wife and her friends are having so much fun, and it seems like when the game master is focusing on them, everyone is laughing and having a grand time. When we spoke, she told me that the elves are untrusting of anyone who isn't elven, even more so with cursed blood. I told her that there was an orc in the party who had a violent history, and the elves seemed perfectly fine with them, but somehow my character, who had been atoning for their curse for several generations, is seen as more untrustworthy. She explained that's just the way things are, but that's what my character was fighting for. I told her it wasn't fun to not be included in the group activities and that I was feeling left out because of this. I asked if I could change the whole cursed bloodline plot and opt for something else, or just create a new character, and she said not to worry about it because she had a whole story built in for it and it would all make sense when we got there. It only got worse from there. Several more sessions in, the characters had been guided by the elves to a ruined city where we were supposed to find out what happened. I picked up a relic and it burned me, so I had to take 11 radiant damage and had a permanent -1 to my strength score until I could get it cleared through some unknown means. My wife's character picked up the relic with a cloth and was blessed with light, receiving a permanent +1 to her intelligence. It was a relic of her character's goddess who started off a major quest line. The downside, she was one of the pantheon who deemed it necessary that my family's bloodline be wiped out. I didn't know what to do. Why would my character be willing to help this goddess who killed her family and kept her and 2 siblings alive so they would live out the rest of their days in suffering and mourning? Why pit my character against the whole group? I asked my wife if this had happened before in their games and she said it hadn't, but maybe the game master was hoping for more drama. I told her I wasn't having fun and that I might just leave, but she wanted to play with me so badly. This was the first group we could sit at together and have fun. I'm not of the mindset to stay at a bad table just because, but it is my wife and their previous campaign looked so much fun. I had to hope that by keeping open communication, we could have a good experience. Things got mildly better with my character having some story beats. She found her older brother and saved him from execution, and I had a little more roleplay from the other characters, but there were several moments where things felt like I was being picked on specifically. For instance, we had a scene where we were running from a giant and the game master asked me specifically, Tanya, what shoes are you wearing? Oh, Geta? Yeah, you have disadvantage on your rolls as the wooden platforms of your Geta are getting stuck in the crevices while running. And things like that. She wouldn't ask the others what they wore or how they did things to give them disadvantages. Just me. I wondered if it was because I was the only man in the group, as this is an all-women's table, but I just can't help but feel as if I'm constantly being picked on, while everyone else is not having to make extra challenge rolls or have times where they aren't even a part of the plot for several sessions. I've spoken with her several times and even brought up the options to create a new character or just politely bow out, but she's told me she has some grand plan for my character that I'll love, and it ties into the overall story and the other characters, so leaving or creating a new character would ruin all that. I'm at an impasse here because my wife and her friends are having a great time, and if I leave, it will somehow ruin this great plot and their progress. But I dread sitting at the table twice a week for 6 hours a day and only getting to chime in when I get any acknowledgement from the non-player characters who are even willing to talk to me. Sorry this was such a long post. This has been sitting with me for the past 4 months since we started. Legitimate Dog said, "Is your wife's character standing up for your character?" To this user, Bahamataisa said, "Forget the characters. Is his wife standing up for him? There's something missing here. Either OP is leaving out a lot of information that paints him in a completely different light, or he needs to look into marriage counseling because this situation sounds egregious." Bad007 said, "You have been playing in this campaign for 6 months, and your character's arc to make the game enjoyable still hasn't happened, despite frequent complaints. I think you may need to cut your losses. I would simply ask them to provide the immediate plan and how much longer you need to wait to see it resolved, or let them know you will be leaving. You are spending a lot of your free time and sacrificing your mental health to preserve everyone else's fun while you are miserable." To this comment, user Dr. Quest said, "Not just playing for 6 months, but 2 long sessions a week for 6 months. Assuming 8 hours of actual play per week and 3 weeks per month, that would conservatively be 144 hours of gameplay with apparently little positive development for their overall experience. That is not a great return on the time invested." Update. A few things I want to clear up about this situation, as many people have been asking me. We were part of 4 tables previously. The first was a group of college friends that we thoroughly enjoyed, but it ended about 3 months in because the Dungeon Master was going through a divorce and never picked it up again. After that, we had bad luck finding good tables. In the first one, the Dungeon Master was a very rules as written focused and skipped all roleplay. Nothing wrong with that, but we found out it wasn't what we were looking for. The other tables had problem players whom the Dungeon Master didn't address, so we left because it killed the vibe for everyone else. My wife found this group on Dungeons & Dragons Beyond. It was advertised as a novice dungeon master looking for players, not as an all-women's table. It just so happened that everyone who contacted her was female. She had been telling me about her sessions from day 1, as she was super excited to have found a table that worked for her. I stopped searching and mostly played solo as a new hobby, but I loved hearing about her adventures with other people. She told her group that she would tell me about their adventures and how excited I was. The Dungeon Master then extended an invitation to me to watch them via my wife, and I could sit in their Discord. I personally asked her permission and the group's permission if I could join. I was fully prepared to give them space if even one person said no. They all agreed, and I sat in for the last 3 months of their sessions. We all got along pretty well. At the end of their campaign, the Dungeon Master told me they were going to start a new one a few months after it ended and asked if I wanted to make a character. I was excited to join since they all seemed really chill and asked if that was okay with the group. Everyone agreed and was very welcoming. I came to the Dungeon Master with a different storyline than what we decided on. She liked my idea but wanted to add some flavor with a scenario involving the gods of that world, saying it fit a vision she had for the story. She didn't tell me what that vision was, but from what I saw, she was a great storyteller, and I'm very flexible and can play into whatever she creates for me. I did not know that this vision would have me out of the game for almost all the social roleplay. Sure, she was helpful for mechanics and during fights, but any kind of roleplay with non-player characters or main story plot was non-existent. It wasn't always bad, just during big roleplay moments and some strange rolls I had to make, but there were moments I had fun. It just wasn't the majority of the time. I stuck it out because my wife enjoyed me playing with her and the group always seemed outwardly friendly. I was really trying to give it a shot. Now, for the update, I talked it over with my wife and she understood how I felt. She admitted she was in a hard place because she loved this group so much, and it was the first time she felt like she could express herself but also play in a game with me that reminded her of our first group. She agreed that we would have a one-on-one video chat with the Dungeon Master privately to discuss any possible ways to make this fun for all of us. I even said that if she was going a certain way, to give me some information so I could play up to it. What I basically got was, "I'm sorry you feel that way and can't handle some confrontation within the game." My wife explained that confrontation is one thing, but I wasn't given a fair shot to prove myself. The Dungeon Master was not happy and said that if I didn't want to play in her game, I could hang out with the boys and do my own thing. Right then and there, I got my answer and politely said she was right, thanked her for her time, and said that I would be leaving. I told her she had full access to my character and whatever plan she wanted for her, and she thanked me before we ended the call. Shortly after that, she kicked my wife and me out of the Discord and blocked us. I feel so bad for my wife because she was honestly hurt, but she said she stands by my decision. This happened Wednesday after our game, and I know she's hurt. My heart breaks because I know she's hurt, but I told her she could take that same character and we could play a solo Dungeons and Dragons session together. Final update. It's been a long and tiring week, but finally we have a resolution to all of this mess. First of all, though all of this was unfortunate, I do not blame anyone for wanting or needing a women's only space. I have made it abundantly clear that I would not have joined if even one of them had spoken up about being uncomfortable with me being there. I respect that, and if that were the main reason, as I truly believe it was, I would have been perfectly fine declining if the Dungeon Master had messaged me and told me she did not want me to join. This was a lot of the players' first group with Dungeons and Dragons, and they admitted that they didn't know I was being treated unfairly. They thought I was just unlucky with the mechanics. They also said they were so used to their group dynamic that it was easy to get tunnel vision when it came to including me in the story, and they hadn't thought anything of it. To be fair, I don't blame this on them completely. I've never played with one group for 4 years straight, but I can imagine you get so used to your dynamic that when it changes and someone else joins, it could be easy to tune them out, especially when I was having to sit out because the story revolved around them. At first, some of them thought that I didn't give the Dungeon Master a fair chance to give me a story. The woman who played the orc said that the Dungeon Master also changed her background so that her character was raised by occultists rather than the monastery idea she had at first. She said she enjoyed the new direction and it opened up a lot more angst and story for her later. We had a bit of a debate about this, but ultimately they agreed that if I wasn't having fun with it, I should have been able to change the story or be allowed to leave. I also asked the group about the reasoning for letting me join. I read a lot of comments here suggesting that my wife may have asked the Dungeon Master or that the Dungeon Master felt pressured, and I wanted to better understand if she felt like she had to take me in despite how she felt. I was told that when my wife told the group that she shared their adventures with me and the compliments I gave, everyone, including the Dungeon Master, was excited to hear that an outsider was invested in their campaign. The Dungeon Master asked if I wanted to sit in and watch, and then when the new campaign started, she asked my wife and the group if I would be interested in joining. I was told that in their private chats, she would make occasional out-of-pocket comments like, "Let's show him how it's done," and I thought guys were supposed to be good at Dungeons and Dragons, when I struggled in combat due to some of the extra difficulties placed against me. In the end, the Dungeon Master got mad after being confronted, disbanded the channel, and everyone got blocked. Now they're asking me if I'd run something for them. Personally, I am going to take a much needed break from this whole thing, but I won't be opposed to possibly doing something they can enjoy in the future. Hopefully I can exceed their expectations. The second post was made in the True Off My Chest subreddit by a user named Chicken Wing Priest. The post is titled, "Broke up with my GF over tattoos. She no longer agrees with our breakup." I want to preface this with a disclaimer that there is nothing wrong with having tattoos if you want and like them. They are not my thing. Please do not take this as a condemnation of tattoos or the people who get them as a whole. My ex and I were together for about a year. Early on in the relationship, she mentioned wanting to get some tattoos. I told her she had every right to do so since it is her body, but I find tattoos very unattractive and would likely break up with her if she went through with it. It became a small fight and she was cold and passive-aggressive about it for a few days, but eventually she said she understood and would not be getting the tattoos done. Fast forward to about 2 months ago and she made another attempt to get me on board with tattoos. I reiterated my stance and told her again she could do it, but I would not stick around if she did. I went out of town to visit my cousin for a week and came home to her with a partial sleeve done. Her arm was basically one big scab. I asked her what was going on, and she nonchalantly said that she and her best friend had talked and agreed I was being unreasonable. So she went ahead and used my time out of town to get it done, so I would not be around to be a buzzkill about it. She said she got as much as the artist was willing to do in one sitting, inked, and planned to get it extended once she was healed. The tattoo was already a deal breaker for me, but the blatant disrespect and casual way she implied my opinion did not matter broke my feelings for her right there. We fought, and eventually she told me to get the hell out and locked herself in the bathroom. Thank God she did this when she did, because I was close to not renewing my lease at my apartment and moving in with her. I packed my things and left while she badmouthed me to her best friend on the phone. I dropped her stuff off from my place the next day. She told me I was making a huge mistake and throwing a good thing away for petty reasons. I just handed her the bag and left. That was weeks ago. I did not hear from her until today. She called me. Here is a very brief summary of the call. Her, okay, the petty drama has run its course. You can move back in and move on, okay? Me, no, we are broken up. It is over permanently. I do not want to get back together. Her, we are not getting back together. This was just a spat that got out of hand. You freaked out and left in a huff. I know you are just too proud to admit you are wrong, so we will just call it even and you can come back. Me, no, I told you repeatedly that tattoos are a deal breaker. You did it anyway and then disrespected me on top of that with the way you went about it. We are done. You can move on now. Find a guy who finds your new ink attractive because I find it repulsive and would not be able to look at you or that arm again. The conversation went in circles for a bit before I hung up. Then she tried sending me some nude photos in an attempt to seduce me, but her body does nothing for me now and her sleeve was visible, which, even after it healed, was gross and unflattering. I told her I deleted them and to leave me alone. I blocked her. She then messaged me on Snapchat saying she never agreed to a breakup and that I owed her a face-to-face conversation if I wanted to end things. I blocked her again. I know it is bad form for a man to call his ex crazy, but this girl is nuts. Edit, I find all the talk about me being shallow pretty funny considering she told me that if I ever gained weight or stopped going to the gym, she would leave me. She put on weight throughout our entire relationship, and it never once made me consider leaving her. I still found her beautiful. When she changed her hair color to shades I did not like, I never said a bad word to her about it. I was supportive. I did not like it, but it was not a deal breaker. One last edit, this was great. The subreddit really is great for getting things off your chest. I had a lot of fun reading responses, and while I did not need validation to know what I did was right, I still appreciate the supportive folks. The negative ones accusing me of being shallow, controlling, weird, and all sorts of other things because I have a preference were fun too. It did not change my mind a one bit, but I am glad you all were able to get those things off your chests as well. Update. I came here a week ago to vent about a strange situation with my ex getting a tattoo, which resulted in our breakup. Weeks later, she acted like our breakup was just a spat and that I was being unreasonable. I told her we were broken up permanently and blocked her. She then tried to message me on other platforms, demanding a face-to-face meeting because she never agreed to the breakup. In the end, the tattoo was a secondary cause of our breakup in my mind. She disregarded what we had spoken about and agreed on early in the relationship. When I did not give her the supportive response she wanted, she proceeded to belittle and insult me, then kick me out of her home, which we were close to having me move into full time. Then she locked herself in the bathroom and loudly insulted me while on the phone with her best friend, who had been the one to convince her to get the tattoo while I was out of town. At that point, we were done. I took my stuff back to my place and brought her belongings from mine back to hers. She showed up at my place last night with a bag full of my bathroom items from her place, just a bottle of body wash and a few other things. She asked to come in and talk, but I stepped outside and we talked out front where the cameras could see. She asked if I was really breaking up with her over a tattoo, and I reiterated that it was about more than the tattoo at this point. I told her I was not breaking up with her now. I had already broken up with her weeks ago. She tried to argue that our relationship was stronger than that, but I told her it was not. While I was comfortable with her, this whole incident made me realize I was not happy with her. Her treating me poorly was the wake-up call we both needed to go our separate ways and find people we could be truly happy with. She kept trying to argue that this was crazy and that I was throwing a good thing away. I told her that I wish she had just gotten the tattoo when we started dating. We could have broken up and just been friends. She said she had considered it, but decided she would rather be with me than get the tattoo, so she lied to me when she said she was okay not getting one. Then, when I went on my trip, her best friend convinced her to get it and claimed I would get over it and stick around. The artist who did the first part of her sleeve was an old friend with benefits of her friend and agreed to do it for a discount. The conversation went in circles for a bit before she tossed the bag at me and left crying, yelling, "Fine, we're fucking over then." So that's that. She showed up at my place like a lot of people predicted, but no stabbing or anything. Friends told me she made a bunch of vague posts about heartbreak on social media, but I haven't seen any of it. Regardless of how things went down, I hope she heals and finds someone who can be more supportive of her choices than I was. Thanks to those who offered me support for my decision. And to everyone calling me shallow, controlling, and weird for my stance on tattoos, I have to say I had a blast reading those comments. Absolutely hilarious. Ziggy Buddy Emmy said, my ex refused to break up and dragged me to a counselor and convinced them to try and convince me to stick around. We were in middle school. OP's ex is literally as mature as a middle schooler. Beanslayer said, had a guy do this to me once. We dated for 2 years. He knew I never wanted children. We talked about that early on and got it out of the way. We lived together and everything. Then one day he sat me down and just started trying to talk me into having kids. This guy pretended he didn't want kids to continue dating me, thinking he would change my mind down the line. The next day I sat him down and told him we aren't compatible. I don't want kids and it's unfair to both of us to continue since we have different futures in mind. I said we could break things off amicably and that I'd help him move out. He just responded with no. No what? This wasn't a yes or no question, LMAO. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.